Now I'm going to give you a little project to do. The project's in Node.js, but I've done most of the Node.js programming for you, so you really just have to focus on the query parts of this, and ultimately I give you the answers as well, so don't feel too stressed out if you don't know what's going on. We're going to be using the PG package today. I linked you to the docs, which is node-postgres. This is the most common connector between Node.js and Postgres. There are others. You're welcome to choose whatever you want, but just to show you, it is like by far the most used, right? This top green line is how many times this is installed per day, which is on the order of 3.5 million times per day. So it's pretty common. One of the reasons I continue to use PG is it's just the one that I've always used, right? And the other thing is that it gives you access to the underlying query language, so I can actually write my own queries to go out to Postgres. Everything else is going to be more, well, not say everything else, but many other things are more ORMs, which are object relation managers. That sounds right to me, so I'm going to go with it. I don't remember.
Mapper, I think.
Huh?
Object relational mapper.
There you go. Object relational mapper. That sounds better. Basically, like you define a bunch of like configurations, and then it generates queries for you. I prefer to write the queries myself, but that is up to you. In any case, this is a SQL class, so you have to write the queries. So I'm just going to give you a tiny overview of Postgres or Node Postgres. This is mostly just so you can do okay in this part of the class. PG has two ways to connect to the database, a client and a pool. Today, I would invite you to use a pool. The primary difference is a client is one atomic connection to the database. So if I connect a client to the database, I have exactly one connection that I'm writing queries back and forth with and getting results with. And then as soon as I'm done, I close it and the entire connection is closed. A pool is something more that you'd use with a web service where you request a client from the pool, it gives you back a client, and then it'll put that client back into the pool, and it will not disconnect that client necessarily. It could. The reason why that's useful is imagine you have a web service that's doing 100 requests per second. The act of opening a client, connecting to it, handshaking, giving the credentials, establishing SSL, all those kind of different things, it's expensive to open and close those connections continually. So what the pool does is it recycles those connections between different requests so that it doesn't have to continually open and close sessions. You don't really have to care too much. Basically, you just have to do this. You require PG, and you make a new pool. You give it the username, the host, the database, and whatever port that you're going out on. But I'm pretty sure you could replace pool here with client, and I think it would still work exactly the same way. You would just have one client instead of many. Rule of thumb here basically is if you're writing a script where you're just like making a bunch of requests and then being done with it, use a client. If you're writing web services where it's going to be like long-lived and there's going to be many things making connections, use a pool. Or if you want something even simpler than that, just generally use pools. You can just kind of always use pools and be fine. Okay. So as long as you're following along, this will be the correct code here to connect you to a database from Node. Here I could just kind of give you some troubleshooting advice. Make sure the credentials are the same. Make sure that your Docker container is running. Make sure the port is exposed. Make sure all of your data is in there. Okay, and then this is how you actually are going to end up making a query to Postgres. So you're going to say await, because this gives you back a promise. The await will actually wait for the promise to finish, right? Pool.query, and then whatever you want to send to the database here. You don't have to give it the semicolon. It will insert the semicolon for you. And then rows will be whatever you got back from the database. There's other metadata that it'll give you back from the database. This object that it gives you back has a lot of stuff. For this purposes of our course, I think all you're going to need is rows. This can be literally anything right here. Like this is going to be the raw query that gets sent to the database. Okay, I wanted to talk just a brief moment about SQL injection, because it's now that we're doing web services and dealing with user data, this is where SQL injection becomes a problem. You don't want to get hacked, right? That's kind of the gist of SQL injection. I would say SQL injection is probably, I think it's fair to say it's the most common way you get hacked. So let's say I have this query right here. Select star from ingredients where ID equals ID, and I'm getting the ID from the request query, right? So basically I'm selecting something from the ingredients table, and the user is providing me with the ID to do that. Why is this query such a bad idea? I'm passing this ID raw in from the user directly into the ID, which means the user can put anything there. Anything that will go directly into my query to my database. This is very, very bad. Because what happens if they put in this? What it would be running in your and do not run this. Well, I guess it wouldn't work, so it doesn't matter. But this is what it would actually get run against your database. Select star from ingredients where ID equals 1, colon, finish first query, second query, drop table users. This would drop your users table, right? And you would lose a ton of data. This is called SQL injection, right? And then the dash dash here, imagine I had other things after this, like a limit of 5, offset 10, right? It would comment everything out so the query wouldn't fail. This is just one way they could hack it that's destructive, right? They could destroy my database this way, but they could also write a second select query in here and then have that return from your database, or they could like add themselves as an admin. They could do a bunch of stuff that would be really harmful to your database. Again, this is called SQL injection. Have you ever seen the XKCD comic of Little Bobby Tables? This is where that joke comes from. So, did you really name your son Robert Drop Table Students? Right, because that would get input into their system and that would drop their database anytime that it got ran, right? We've lost your students, right? I hope you're happy, and I hope you've learned to sanitize your database inputs. I did not name my son Little Bobby Tables. Anyway, that's where that joke comes from. So, how do we make sure that that doesn't happen? How do we sanitize our inputs from our users? Node Postgres, the client that will do this for you as long as you use it correctly. So here I say await pool query, and then here I put this $1 where I'm going to put the user input, right? And then I just give it to it in order. In this case, I'm just giving it the ID. And then Node Postgres will take care of all the sanitization for you. You can just trust Node Postgres. So if I was putting like 3 things in here, I'd have $1, $2, $3, and then I would just put those here in order in this array that I passed to pool.query. I put this one in here just because this tripped me up when I was doing this app, so I wanted to clue you in on it. So if you need to put like the percentage signs in here, because you're doing like the kind of the fuzzy search there, you put it in here, right? Inside of where you don't put it inside the $, because the percentage $1 percentage wouldn't work. So you have to put it into the array. So it would look like this. So you might have to do some string concatenation into what gets sanitized, is what I'm saying.